Please tell us your name.
Chris Sisco.
And for the record, would you please spell your first name and also your last name?
ChrisSisco.
What do you do for an occupation, Mr. Sisco?
I'm a certified registered nurse anesthetist.
And may seem somewhat obvious, but tell us, what does a nurse anesthetist do?
So a nurse anesthetist, we provide anesthesia for patients that are undergoing surgery or procedures in the hospital. I work at the Orlando Level 1 Trauma Center, so we work in a team with other CRNAs and anesthesiologists to provide anesthesia.
And where do you specifically work, at ORMC?
Yeah, the ORMC, the Level 1 Trauma Center in downtown Orlando.
Okay. And how long have you been doing this and working there?
So I completed my schooling there. So if you count the schooling of January 2015 till now, I've been there about 3.5 years.
Okay. And tell us where you live. And I'm not asking for a street address, but if you prefer a city, town, county, that's fine.
Southwest Orlando, Florida.
Now, Mr. Sisco, did you know a person by the name of Cody Amato during his lifetime?
Yes, sir, I did.
And tell the jury, please, how did you know of Cody Amato and how long? Just kind of give us a sense of who he was to you, your relationship to him.
Sure. So the first time I met Cody Amato was in the spring of 2014. We were both applying for the same anesthesia program. And what that was is we met down in Miami and we were interviewed for going to school. So I met him that day. It's kind of like you all meet in a classroom together. You meet each other, potential prospects. You get interviewed, and then you leave, and then later on in the year you find out if you got accepted. So I just met him that one day, and then we both come to find out got accepted. And in January of 2015 is when we started our program together at the Orlando campus. So we started school together, and that consists of you go to class a couple of times a week, and then you have clinical after that. So you spend a good, they say anywhere from 40 to 60 hours a week between school and clinical time. So between January 2015 and the early summer of 2017, we completed that 28-month program together. And so I would see him in class and both at clinical throughout the week for those 28 months.
And how long had Cody been working at Orlando Regional Medical Center as an anesthetist?
Yeah, so the same time frame as I. We both started the program together, did clinicals, schooling together. We both, early on in our program, still in school, decided we wanted to work at ORMC when we completed our schooling. So then we both signed on, and as soon as we graduated in May of 2017, we signed on and started working together. So for the January.
So coworker, you're a coworker of Cody?
Yes, sir.
And would you consider yourself a friend of Cody also?
I would, yeah. So in the program, we joked around that we would see each other more than we saw our families, just because we spent so much time together. But after we would study together or see each other in class, see each other at clinical, and then as of late, I'd say over the last, maybe since we started actually working together, graduated and working, he would spend more time with my family, come over and have dinner or whatever, meet my wife, meet my kids. So yeah, within the last year, I'd say he was probably my closest friend at work, I would say.
Now, let me ask you about Grant Amato. Do you know a person by the name of Grant Amato?
Yes, sir, I do.
And tell the jury, kind of like to ask the same question that I asked about Cody. Tell the jury how do you know Grant Amato?
So I would say almost the same exact story as meeting Cody. We met the first day. They had applied and wanted to go to school together. So again, I met Grant that same day, like March 2014, when we were interviewing, but it was just a brief hi. And then in January of 2015 is when we all started the program together. Again, I would see him at school a couple days a week, and then see him periodically throughout our clinical time outside of the class. But around the spring of 2016, I didn't have any more contact with him after
With him meaning?
that. Grant,
Okay.
yeah, no
And
more
let-
contact.
And let
with
me
Grant.
ask you this, do you see, and if you need to stand up to look around the courtroom, do you see Grant Amato in the courtroom today?
Yeah, I see him over there.
And would you please identify him?
Why not?
Is he the person sitting at
He's
the
the-
back counsel table in the chair that's closest to the wall?
Yes, sir.
Okay, please let the record reflect that Mr. Sisco is the defendant, identify the defendant in this case.
One.
Now, would it be fair to say that you are much closer with Cody than you were with Grant Amato?
Yeah, that would be a fair statement. Definitely talked to Cody more, spent more time with Cody, in clinical and in class, talking to him. And then especially since me and Cody grew closer after we both graduated, that's when I spent more time with Cody. I was closer to him, but with Grant, not really a friendship, I would say. Just more like a working colleague,
Okay. Now, let me ask you a couple of questions concerning Cody's work habits. And once again, can you remind us, how long had you and Cody actually worked together at Orlando Regional Medical Center?
So again, from 2015 is when we first started the program. It's a program that takes a lot of effort, a lot of time, a lot of dedication. And so again, January 2015 until when he passed away in January 2019. I had worked with him, spent a lot of time with him at work. Again, we joked around about seeing each other more than we saw our family.
Tell the jury about Cody's work habits with regard to showing up for work, coming to work, punctual.
Sure.
I mean, tell us about that.
So I'm sure we'll talk about this later, but one of the reasons why I had called in the wellness check was because from what I can recall, I never could recall a time when Cody would show up late to class, when he would not show up to class, when he would not come on time or not show up to clinical. I never heard of an instance where he, just did not show up for any reason. Extremely dedicated, knowledgeable. He worked hard at being the CRNA that he was.
What about coming to work on time?
When we graduated and we started working as CRNAs at ORMC, it is when you work a day shift and you know your schedule ahead of time, you are scheduled to show up at least at the latest 7 o'clock. But you can show up earlier if you'd like. And so you can clock in at 6:45. And that's when you can start getting paid, but you're not considered late until you show up after 7. Cody and I and a couple others, we would show up even earlier than that, 6:15, 6:20, we would clock in, knowing that we weren't going to get paid, but we would, come and get our rooms ready, go see our patients in pre-op, see them ahead of time, talk about the care plan with our anesthesiologist. So I would say that Cody was, again, never late, not even punctual. I would say he's always early. And so, again, never saw him show up late at all.
Okay. Now, let me direct your attention to January 24th, 2019, Thursday, January 24th, 2019, and just ask you about that day. First of all, did you work that day?
Yes, sir.
And do you remember what your shift was that day? How many hours that you were supposed to put in that day?
So on that Thursday, I was scheduled a 16-hour shift, which is, again, you show up at 7, 6:45, 7, then you have a 12-hour shift until 7 p.m., and then if needed, you stay an additional 4 hours until 11 p.m. if there are emergencies and such. So Orlando's a big city, a level 1 trauma center. It's not uncommon that for your 16-hour shift, you're there for the whole 16 hours. So from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. would have been my shift for that day.
And do you recall, I'm going to ask you about Cody in a couple of seconds, of course, but do you recall what time did you arrive to work that day? About
6:20 to 6:25 is when I clocked in that day.
Did Cody come into work that day?
Yes, sir.
And do you recall, once again, about what time Cody arrived at work that day?
After I clock in, I always look at the board, and then I see where my room is, and I go straight to pre-op. And then when I got to pre-op, he was already there, seeing his patient and, prepping his patient for surgery.
So he was early and on time?
Yes, sir.
Now, just very briefly, I want to kind of fast forward up to the evening, but just so the jury has a sense of continuity, just generally describe that day, your work day, and what Cody was doing also.
Right. So, again, our days are normally filled. They're very busy. But I do remember that that afternoon, it had kind of slowed down a little bit. And so what happens is there's 4 of us that are scheduled that 16-hour shift. And again, for some reason, if it slows down in the afternoon, what we'll do is either we have to stay there on call even though there's no cases going on, or if there's even sometimes no cases going on, sometimes the head anesthesiologist that's running the board for the day, who's in control of the board and of when we get to go and come, they will first ask us if there's any volunteers, if anybody wants to leave early. Well, that day I remember that none of us wanted to leave early. So instead of any volunteers, what will happen is we'll put all of our names in a hat and draw names out of a hat. And Cody's name came up first, and he was going to leave at like 9:30 that afternoon. And then since my name was...
evening, afternoon or evening? You said afternoon.
Yeah, 9:30 p.m.
Okay, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yep, 9:30 p.m. is when he was going to leave because we didn't need him. And then I would stay until 11 to cover until the night guy came in to cover the night shift.
So drawing names out of a hat was, the purpose of that was really designed to see who has to go early?
Correct, yeah, because the hospital can't just pay, and then, all 4 of us to be there if we're not doing anything. So
get paid very well if you stay later?
Oh, yeah. So that's, that'll be another reason why none of us wanted to leave early. So if you follow me, their first 12 hours is regular pay, and then whether or not that week is in overtime or not, you automatically get bumped into overtime, and you get paid double time for the last 4 hours. So if you think about it, you work 12, then if you just stay for another 4, you get paid for an additional day of being there. So that's why initially none of us wanted to leave, because you're already there. You might as well just make the money while you're there. A lot of people, some people like to volunteer to leave, and then a lot of us don't like to volunteer to leave. So then that's where you go with the drawing the names out of a hat, and somebody has to leave.
Okay. So Cody drew a time where he had to leave early?
Yes, sir, about 9:30 is the time. So he drew his name out of a hat, he was first, and then the head anesthesiologist just picked the time. And Cody will leave at 9:30, somebody will leave after that, and then Chris, you're the last, you'll leave at 11 p.m. when the night guy comes in. So yeah, okay. Cody was supposed to leave at 9:30 p.m.
So 9:30 was the time for Cody?
Correct.
Let me ask you, did there come a time when Cody did leave and it was earlier than 9:30?
Yes, sir.
Tell the jury about that.
And so if nothing is going on, typically what happens is whoever the anesthesiologist is and the CRNAs that are there, we will kind of congregate in this anesthesia office that's right by the OR desk. We call it the bubble room because there's a big mirror or a big window right there that you can see in. But we kind of hang out there because at any one time during the day, you can get a stat call, which means that a patient is coming up within 5 minutes, and you have to be there and available. So that's where we all kind of were, just hanging out in there. And Cody was talking to us about, and then he ended up leaving that room and going, and he was like on his phone or something. And then I decided, well, since he left and we weren't really talking a whole lot, I went to go take a quick lunch break. So I was taking a lunch break, and I was just sitting there watching TV or something, and Cody popped his head in the break room at about 9:10, 9:15, and he said, "Hey."
Can we approach, Your Honor? Okay, you can answer the question then. What did Cody say to you?
He said that he had talked to the anesthesia doc and said, "I'm going to leave a little earlier, but I'll see you in the morning, and we'll have coffee after we see our patients."
So he left,
Yes, sir. He left early.
and this is approximately when now, please?
About 9:15.
And let me ask you, even that 15 minutes of when he was supposed to leave versus when he actually left, did that seem a little bit unusual to you?
Yeah, that
Why?
might. So that might not sound unusual to somebody who doesn't have our position, but when you're making double time and you leave 15 minutes early, that's quite a bit of money that you're just leaving on the table for no reason. He wasn't told to leave early, and we all have jobs. We like to make money, so I just thought it was weird. I'd never seen Cody leave early and leaving money on the table like that, just to dip out early.
I'm showing counsel States Exhibit A for identification. May I approach the witness, Your Honor? Let me show you what's been marked as States Exhibit A for identification. I know that you've seen this photograph before. Do you recognize that photograph?
Yes, sir, I do.
And please tell the jury, who's the person that's depicted in the photograph?
That would be my friend Cody Amato.
Okay, and do you recognize what he's wearing?
He's wearing the scrubs that he left in. He's wearing the badge that we use to get in and out of the hospital. And his watch, his big watch that he always used to wear at the hospital as well.
Okay, that's the way that he appeared? He was dressed like that when he left you at 9:15 in the evening on January 24th?
Yeah.
Okay. I'd offer this in evidence as a State's Exhibit, Your Honor.
Any objection?
None.
It's been pre-marked for identification as exhibit number, what's the exhibit number? A will be moved into evidence as State's Exhibit number 1.
You have the laser pointer? Yeah, then why don't you show us, first of all, that's how Cody was dressed when he left work?
Yeah, so he always wore, we always have to wear these green scrubs. No matter, when we're in the operating room, you have to wear it. And he always wore the long sleeves because he was always cold. This would be his badge right here that we used to get in and out of the hospital, in and out of lounges, in and out of everything. And then he always had this watch on as well that he would have left. It was right there.
Okay.
Is there a mouse right there?
There is a mouse, yes.
Use that mouse, and that's what we work on.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, did you eventually leave work that evening? And once again, I'm referring to the evening of Thursday, January 24th.
Yeah.
About what time did you leave?
About 11:10 is when I clocked out.
Now, did you go to work the next morning?
Yes, I did.
Approximately what time did you arrive?
I believe I looked at my timesheet. I clocked in at 6:19.
And Cody, what time was Cody scheduled to come in?
So again, scheduled to be there no later than 7. You can clock in earlier. So I would have expected him to be there before me.
And was he?
No.
And did Cody come in at all that morning?
No.
And did that concern you?
Yes, it did.
Tell the jury about that. When did you first start to get concerned?
When I first got in, I had clocked in at where we clock in at, and you walk right by that, and there's the surgery OR board where you can see where your case assignment is for the day. I had ran into a colleague of ours that typically works overnight, and she had said, Cody's not here. I haven't seen him yet. He's not in pre-op. Have you heard from him? And of course I was like, no, I just got here. I haven't heard from him yet. I went about, the next couple minutes. I went to pre-op just to see for myself, to see if he was there, and he wasn't there. So I looked at whatever room he was supposed to be in, and he wasn't in there. So then I ran into the colleague again, and she had expressed like a little bit more concern this time. And so I said, well, why don't I just try to call him or text him? So I tried to text him. And I know that when Cody has an iPhone like I do, and I know that when you have the iMessage, that when you send a text message, typically it goes through in blue, which means that the phone received the text message. And so when I text him, hey, where are you? It went through just green, like the phone didn't receive the text message, like it's either out of service or it's dead.
Had that ever happened before?
No, sir. Cody always had his phone on. He always had a charger on him. He always had it clipped to him. If I ever, throughout the day, if I had a question about anything, I knew that if I shot Cody a text, he would text me right back with, advice or whatever. So then when it went through green, it was concerning. So I thought, well, maybe I'll just try to give him a buzz. So I tried to call the phone, and it went, rang a couple times and went straight to voicemail. So I did that a couple times. And then
Unsuccessful? Weren't able to get through to Cody?
never, no, it always went straight to voicemail or the text went green. So then I had kind of, we have a friend that we went to school with. He now lives in New York. I kind of texted him and I said, hey, have you heard from Cody, like overnight at all? He said, no, why? I said, he's not here at work. He said, well, did you try to call him? I said, yeah, of course I tried to call him. And then I had talked to a couple other colleagues about him not showing up, and everybody's response was, I can't believe he's not here. This is so out of ordinary. Why would he not show up? Even if he didn't show up, he always had his phone on him. He should have answered, called back, something.
So at some point, did your concerns rise to the level where you thought, now I better call the
Yeah,
police?
we got to do something because my friend's not here and he's supposed to be here. So we bounced around the idea of like what we should do if somebody should try to go to his house or whatever, or if somebody should try to call a wellness check. Well, none of us had ever called a wellness check before. So I just started Googling like how to do one, and I tried to type in like Chuliota Police Department, and apparently there isn't one. So I called Oviedo Police Department, and I called in and I got some, maybe a dispatcher or somebody, and I had said, hey, my friend's not at work. I'd just like to call in like an official wellness check to see where he's at. And they had asked me a couple things about him, and I expressed my concern, and they said, well, we'll send somebody over to the house. and we'll keep you informed. I gave him my number and all that stuff. So maybe, I don't know how much time went by, but some time went by and I got a phone call back from the police officer that had received the the wellness check concern. So he said he was at the house.
Okay, I'll,
Stated at this point.
I'm sorry?
It's stated at this point.
Yes. So at some point, you did call the police, and then an officer who actually arrived at the scene gave you a call back?
Yeah, he called me back.
Okay. And, and at that point, did you, without getting into what was said, the substance of the conversation, did you and the officer discuss your concerns?
Correct, yes, we did. I just told him the same thing I told the court, that, this is extremely out of the ordinary. This is very concerning for us at work, and, expressed our concern.
Okay. Thank you very much. I have no further questions.
Good afternoon, Mr. Sisco. Now, you testified earlier that when you were looking at the photograph, you said those were the scrubs he left in. That's what you stated, correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, they wouldn't be different than the ones he would wear the next day, correct? They would look exactly the same?
They're green scrubs.
Correct. So he wore the same thing almost exactly every day to work, correct?
We're all required to.
Okay. And when Mr. Amato said he had to leave, he didn't appear flustered or panicked, right?
Nope.
Didn't raise any alarm to you, correct?
Oh, I'm sorry, no. No, he didn't.
And you can't be certain that those are the exact same scrubs he left in because he wears the same thing every day, correct?
I'm sorry, can you repeat it one more time?
He wears the same thing to work every day, isn't that right?
Correct.
And because he would wear the same thing the next day, you're unaware whether those were the exact same scrubs that he wore when he left because nothing distinguishes them, correct?
If from one day to the other, you're asking me, are those the same scrubs? I wouldn't be able to know if they was the same exact scrubs from one day to another.
That's exactly what I'm asking. You said you
No.
would not be able to tell, correct?
No.
Thank you, Judge.
Any redirect?
Mr. Sisco, is that how he was dressed? The way that he was dressed in the photograph, was that how he was dressed when he left you at 9:15 in the evening on January 24th?
When Cody left the hospital, he was wearing green scrub pants, green scrub top, green scrub long sleeve shirt with a badge and a watch.
Exactly how he appears in that photograph?
Exactly how he appears in the photograph.
State's Exhibit 1. Thank you.
Members of the jury, do you have any questions of this witness? And everyone's shaking their head no. May this witness be excused and released?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Sisco. You're excused and you're released. You may step down.